by Carrie Strickland.
Yes. So Edward is doing project 1 from the Speaking to Inform pamphlet book. And the objectives are to select new and useful information for presentation to the audience, to organize the information for easy understandability and retention, and to present the information in a way that will help motivate the audience to learn. It's 5 to 7 minutes.
So with that, here is Everett Morgan, ACB, Who's the Bern? Who's the Bern? Everett Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. In 2012, in the Democratic Convention, the Democratic Party was ready for Hillary. She was pretty much anointed to be the Democratic nominee in 2016, and she had almost a sure lock on the nomination. That is before an avowed socialist entered the race. Bernard Sanders, an independent senator from Vermont, entered the race in 2015 and ignited progressives and independents across the nation. We see on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, hashtag, Who's the Bern? Not Who's the Bern, Feel the Bern. My title of my speech. Who is the Bern? What is his background? Who is his early influence? What are the issues that drive him? When I first heard about Bernard Sanders is when I was watching Nightline in 1990 after the off-year election. 2 historic things happened during that election. 2 congressmen were elected that year, well, more than 2 congressmen. Congressman Gary Franks of Connecticut was the first African-American elected to the House of Representatives in 60 years who was a Republican. Ted Koppel also interviewed that night Bernard Sanders, who was the first congressman in decades to be elected who was an avowed socialist. He ran as an independent. 26 years later, he was still pounding his same message. But the interesting thing about Bernard Sanders, when he ran in 1990, it was right after the Cold War thawed out. He was still going strong, and in 2005, he ended up running for the Senate. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's look at the political life of Bernard Sanders, and I do mean life. He was born of Jewish immigrants, Russian and Polish descent. His father immigrated from Poland, whose relatives were slaughtered during the Holocaust. Early on in his political career, and early on in his youth, it was atrocities of Nazi Germany and what he felt was inequality and injustice for the American people that influenced him politically. Also, one of his early influences was Eugene Debs, the socialist who ran for president who ended up in jail. Bernard Sanders ran for student council president in high school on a platform of giving money to Korean War orphans from the Korean War. He lost that race. However, the student that beat him ended up carrying on Bernard Sanders' proposals. This was in high school. He went on to college and became active in the civil rights movement, fighting Jim Crow laws up north in Chicago. In the 60s, he was immersed in civil rights, pro-labor, the anti-war movement, peace movement, and immersed himself in socialistic politics. In the 70s, he ran unsuccessfully many times for office as a member of the Labor Union Party until 1979 when he decided to become an independent. Bernard Sanders in 1981 won the mayor of Burlington, Vermont with 12 votes. 12 votes. Yes, your vote does count. And he ran again as a socialist, not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, as a socialist. And he kept running as a socialist up to that point. He never became a member of any political party other than the Labor Party I mentioned earlier. He was reelected 3 times as mayor of Burlington, Vermont. Now, as mayor, he was still running for office, governor, senator, and Congress, and he was still losing. He kept running as a socialist until 1990. Bernard Sanders in 1991, despite opposition from blue dog Democrats like conservative Democrat Charles Stenholm of Texas, caucused with the Democrats. He remained in Congress until 2005 when he ran for the U.S. Senate and beat a man who spent $7 million of his own money. Now, I'm not going to get into Bernard Sanders' political positions because a lot of us know what his political positions are. However, how many of y'all do y'all know that what he is saying today is virtually the same thing he said back in the 60s? You could take an audio tape of anything Bernard Sanders says today or back in 1970 and match it virtually word to word for what he said today. He constantly has the same exact message, whether it's 1960, 70, 80, or 2000. In his personal life, Bernard Sanders has been married twice. He does have a son from a previous relationship. He was raised ethnically Jewish and religiously Jewish. However, he's not really religious and he doesn't really cling to any organized religion. Some even say he may be humanistic or secular. He has a net worth of under $600,000, reported under $600,000. He has been considered a political underdog, but he has said, do not ever underestimate me. Bernard Sanders has defeated Democratic and Republican candidates. Now, as I mentioned, he is not then and he is not now a member of the Democratic Party. The reason why Bernard Sanders is running as a Democrat, and you can research this, is because he feels that it would have been too much of a hassle to get placed on the ballot in 50 states as an independent. So I hope I was able to inform you about his background, his passion, and who he is. I hope you know who the Bern is now. Madam Toastmaster.
Let's take a few moments and write Everett a few comments about his amazing